All right, I'm going to talk about so many kind of random seeming things. I'm actually right in the middle of writing an article about Elizabeth Holmes, who grew this $9 billion company called Theranos about blood testing, and it turned out to be based on a huge lie, and then it went completely broke, and she's probably going to go to prison for a while. Because she committed a bunch of fraud and conspiracy and stuff. And that'll be the fourth article that I write today, which is pretty crazy. I have been doing some experiments in psychology like I always have. And they are, well, one which was incorporating images from my Symbolscape, which is a whole thing that, I kind of made in a state of reverie. I might do something with that in the future. But it definitely worked because one of them was a writer, and it was the image of a writer, obsessive writer and speaker. And now it's actually getting in the way. Like, I should have edited some writing in the last few days. The last week, I've been saying, all right, I should really shoot one of these videos, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Same thing with the editing, just because I feel like writing. So very interesting, very unique. And today we have a bunch of snow. Snowed yesterday like crazy. I mean, even though it's April 15th today, I had to shovel a bunch of snow to get out of the driveway so me and Mom could go to the chiropractor today. And yeah, so I wrote an article about that too, which is pretty funny, about the global cooling deniers, which is pretty funny because global cooling is obviously way scarier than global warming, and global warming would probably be a good thing. And what else? What else for recent? I have like a whole list of stuff here, but it seems like there's other recent stuff. Oh, I'm just starting to recover from paying the IRS because technically I'm self-employed with the teaching thing. And I didn't set aside money for taxes, so it ended up being like $1,300, and I didn't have it. So I've been scrambling like crazy to pay my taxes, which I did. Technically, I think I ended up paying them like 2 weeks early in total, but I got my savings down to zero, so I had absolutely zero money. I was like, and I was like trying to conserve the gas in my tank because I needed that gas to make it to the next payday, and now I made it, so hopefully I can save up a little bit again because that's pretty crazy. And now I should be saving taxes for next year already, which I'm way behind on. I have like a little chart on how much money I should have set aside in taxes, and way behind. One of my chiropractor's kids has an art show this Saturday that I'm going to, and she's really young, so that'll be really cool. And I talked to a guy I know about doing fake tattoos, which is ink on the skin, but they stay on a couple of weeks. Like I had the Harry Potter tattoos on my forearms at one time. I did that for the last Halloween, and that was really cool. He's becoming a tattoo artist. He's getting near the end of his internship and stuff now, so we're probably going to do that. Next month, I have a cousin getting married, Alexis and Josh, and I'm officiating their wedding, which Josh had messaged me about like a few months ago, and then I was like, yeah, I could definitely do it, but tight on money because I've been bad at money in this lifetime, and so I can't lose money on the deal, and I'm probably going to want to make trips over there to like at least want to talk it over with you guys, get my suit tailored, maybe buy certificates depending on if you want it, and so I don't want to lose money on the deal, and I mean, like a couple $100, something like that would probably do it because, doing a wedding isn't super exciting to me. The first one, I wanted to officiate a wedding for sure, and I did that one last year, and it was cool. And I can see where they're kind of dangerous to do. My Uncle Rick talked about how, he's a minister, he's done a bunch of weddings. They're good for making money, but he said he knows no ministers that like doing weddings. And I see why, because it'd be almost impossible to satisfy everyone. Although I did in the wedding I officiated, but you're like walking on a nice edge, And technically I had like 4 sets of parents to satisfy, and I talked to every set afterwards, and they all liked it. So, but it was crazy. Tomorrow, tomorrow I'm going to a business meeting called Founder Co., which is just a couple of months old. And it's for startup founders, and they have meetings in Holland and in Grand Rapids. I went to one 2 weeks ago in Grand Rapids. It was really cool. Met all these people. that are starting businesses and stuff like this. I need to get something going in that direction. It was super interesting, actually, talking to John and Abby. They were being interviewed there. They've been married for like 15 years. They've, started multiple companies and ran them and have had some decent success and whatnot. And they were doing it on running companies and how you run a relationship around running companies, how you communicate about different things, stuff like that, which was extremely interesting. And then for part of it, you could get like an individual session with them for 10 minutes, and I did. We were trying to work out stuff, and I'm like, I could do stuff in like test prep for like IQ tests or graduate tests or stuff like that, or English language tests, or I could try to start a business teaching English, stuff like this, and I think all those would be very reasonable, and there's opportunity there and that type of stuff. Or I could do something crazy like starting a meditation company, because meditation has changed my life in a few different ways, and I think I have some unique things running. I've made up kind of a system of classification that's unique, and I call it just meditation matrix, where it can be sensation or imagination based, and then either concentrated or non-concentrated, and then you get 4 squares, obviously. And they work completely differently, and you would do them for completely different reasons, and I've never seen anyone present it quite like that, and it seems so useful to look at the framework like that. And it was very interesting because, I think I was kind of looking for permission to do something cool or really interesting. And I've been teaching English now for over 2 years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years, something like that. And, kind of burnt out on it. And this morning I had a huge issue with it because yesterday our power went out for like 5 hours, almost exactly 5 hours. And luckily it was just 5 hours. No one was expecting it. The plows didn't get out for a long time, and just crazy weather, and the snow was so heavy that it was taking stuff down, branches and lines and whatnot. And, the tree in the backyard was bent all the way to the ground this morning, a decent-sized tree. And our power came back on. I was like, awesome, because I was, like, oh no, that's not good, because the fridge and the freezer are good for a handful of hours, but after that you start running into trouble. But you lose a little bit of food. It's not horrible. It's a complete pain in the butt. The house wasn't going to really have a heat issue. We got down to the mid-60s in the house, so not very far down at all. We lit, like a handful of candles, and they actually produce some heat to keep it up. And we have pilot lights on the stove, so there's like 4 more candles there, essentially, heat-wise. And then we can always turn the stove on for little bits of time, which they tell you not to do, but it's a lot better than letting your pipes freeze if you want to try to keep it at like 40 or even 50. But it not super cold, so not really an issue there. But if we didn't have power, I couldn't teach in the morning, and I get financial penalties if I miss classes, I'm like, oh no. So the power comes back on, I'm like, awesome, and then went to bed. And woke up in the morning, go to get on the computer, power's all on, I get on the computer, no internet. Like, oh no. I thought maybe just the Wi-Fi was messed up, something like that. So I went to reset the router, and I did a reset the router, it didn't come back on. I was like, oh no, we must be out of service because of all the crazy weather and stuff. So I contacted the company, and the company that I work for, because I was working for 2 different companies this morning. So the one wasn't bad. I sent them a message, I'm like, hey, I'm without internet, cancel Eric's class. So they did. The other one, I messaged them like, hey, we had a huge snowstorm, my internet's down, sorry, but cancel the classes or just move them or whatever, And they were like, no. I go, okay. And then they said you're going to get, huge financial penalties for like, so I get paid 125 won per hour, which I don't know what that exchange rate is at right now. It fluctuates between $17 and $19, and then but it's only for the time I'm working, except on 2 days of the week. It's it's kind of complex for the whole thing. But so like 60 won per class is what I was going to get penalized. So what does that come to? Well, almost half, so let's say it's $8. So $8 a class is what I would get penalized. And through that company this morning, I think I had 4 classes, something like that. So what is that, $32? I would have been penalized for not having the internet this morning. And so I got on my phone, which their site, they don't have an app. Well, they do have an app, but you can't teach on it. So I went to their site and changed to the desktop version on my phone, right? Well, it's not made to work on this type of system. So I was still able to like log in the class, but it didn't work properly. It wouldn't shoot the video. It would just shoot the sound, and then I couldn't like manipulate the book very good for like flipping the book and stuff like this. So two of the kids I had decent conversations with, but all the sessions went pretty poorly, pretty bad. The other session was with the other company I was able to cancel, luckily, but that way I didn't end up penalized for any of the classes. I mean, it was just insane. Not a good situation. So would have been a lot better to write them a note that, sorry, it's the teachers without internet, we need to cancel. That would have been, they probably would have been a lot more satisfied. But nevertheless, we did it the hard way. And anyways, I'm getting less and less satisfied with that. So I need to find something else, and I think teaching meditation, I have a unique take on it, and I have a wide experience across different types of meditation. I was talking to them and saying, you know, seems like that field's flooded, so should I be looking into something else? And they're like, you know, just because a lot of people are in it, I mean, a lot of people are interested in it. So you just have to be better than some others to become more popular, but you definitely know there's interest there, so there's no reason to veer away from it. And they said, you'll burn out on the stuff you don't want to do anyways, you know, so you might as well do the thing you want to do. So it was interesting. That was 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to do something, you know, from that 2 weeks ago till this other meeting. I'm like, 2 weeks, all right, I can definitely like build a website, and then just a really simple one with like a video introduction asking people about problems or questions they have about meditation, then post it in like various Facebook groups or whatever and get them in there to answer a little questionnaire or something like that, and didn't do anything with it. So that's definitely an issue which I've been thinking about. I have to try on my suit too, because I've been gaining weight recently, so I like kind of monitor my weight, but I don't really pay strict attention to trying to control it, because I use it more as a feedback mechanism. And I've obviously been doing some things wrong, because my fat content has been increasing quite a lot lately. So my weight's fluctuated so much crazily because of all the hormones being off from the brainstem stuff for the last couple of years that you know, I have to check if stuff fits if I haven't worn it in a while, which is funny. Could be too big, too small, never know. And let's see. Oh, I've been eating more and more raw meat, beef tartare, and that is working good. I found sirloin steak works pretty good because it's not too fatty. If you have a bunch of fat in a steak, then it kind of dries out your mouth. And I tried a bunch of different variations, but this is what I found works. Is a sirloin steak, you got to cut it up real small, right? And the smallness helps quite a bit. Drop that in a bowl, drop an egg yolk on top of it, not the egg white. Tried that one time. Ooh, that was bad. Just like slimy mess, all the nutrients in the egg yolk anyways, right? The egg white is basically just protein. Don't eat egg whites without egg yolks. People make that mistake, and then it makes you like vitamin K deficient and stuff. The nutrients are in the egg yolk. The egg white craze is crazy. And then I put salt and pepper on it, and then I'm horrible at this word. I hate this word. Worcestershire sauce, something like that. Throw some of that on there, and that tastes pretty good. Dijon mustard sauce is decent too, but I've been going more and more towards the Worcestershire sauce every time. It's a good thing I don't have to teach any kids that one. I have a bunch of crazy stories about kids. Yeah, I guess. Ooh, there's this projectile device that works by a quickly burning ingredient that expands at a rapid rate to fire a projectile out of a long metal tube. And so I think you know what I'm talking about. I think if you mention that word, though, then YouTube will kick you off, right? YouTube's really censored like that now. And then also they would block me in the country that I teach kids in, which is the largest country in the world, which they'll also block me if I use their name. And it's crazy how censored society is. highly censored. Let's see. Oh, Tiger Woods won the Masters, which is crazy. It means I have to contact this guy. So there's this guy that was a vendor at Baker College when I was a supervisor there in the bookstore. And, well, and when I was a work study, he was there for years. And he'd come in, huge Tiger fan. I mean, Tiger hasn't been good in a long time, years, right? And he would come in and be like, Tiger's coming back. Tiger's coming back every time. And I'm like, dude, Tiger's never coming back. Tiger's old. Tiger's injured. Tiger's life is a mess. Tiger's no good. Like, Tiger's not coming back. He had his career, and now it's done. And now he won the Masters again. So I'm gonna get his contact information. He works for Trophy House. His name is Ray. I messaged another guy I used to work with there, and I was like, what was that guy's name? His name is Ray. I'm gonna give him a call, like Trophy House call. I'm gonna be like, hey, I have to talk to Ray and tell him who I am, and then be like, Tiger's back. He's gonna love it. He's been waiting for this moment for a significant portion of his life at this point. I mean, he's not a young guy, but still, you know, it's been like a decade or something since Tiger's been good. Maybe not quite that long. Maybe that long. That's been a long time. I have a build-up of stories to edit, and we are putting that out on September 24th, I believe, is when the stories come out. So I'm working on that. I'm working on the Harry Potter speeches. I'm struggling with the Harry Potter speeches. They're really weird speeches to give, because I'm pretending to be a wizard professor, speaking to other wizards and witches about non-wizard people. But the people in the audience are actually non-wizards, right? So if you just tell them stuff about muggles, like if you just explain how planes actually fly, it's super boring. It would probably be super interesting to witches and wizards, but it's just going to be super boring to non-witches and wizards, which is what these people are. It's a really weird format, and right, I have to pretend that I'm doing like lectures, but I'm really just giving speeches to people for entertainment, not for education. It's, I'm pretty good at making and doing speeches and structuring them, formatting them, seeing what'll work, and this is a hard one. Saying that, let's see, 2 days from now, I'm meeting with Forbes, which is a guy from the Arconic group, which is a factory we have up here in Whitehall, and he really liked a speech I gave at the Montague group. It was probably like a month ago or something. It was an impromptu speech. They had an open house. They were trying to get guests there. None of the guests came, but it was still a nicely put on event. And it was right near St. Patrick's Day, so whenever that was. Roger, the guy that was doing the thing, was giving out these things that were Irish sayings, and then you had to like make a little couple-minute speech on this Irish saying. And I got up, and I am a pretty good speaker often. I mean, every now and then I still flop, but it's unusual. And these Harry Potter things are going to be a harder deal because they're a very unique situation, but nevertheless. So I got up and I gave this whole speech about my Aunt Lori that does genealogy, and she has this big book, and we tracked it back all the way to the Mayflower, but before that we lose track of it because it goes back overseas, and as it turns out, we were leprechauns. And then my great uncle figured out that we could grow by eating shamrocks or clovers, and then we did that, and right, so I went into this whole history about us being leprechauns and moving to the United States and stuff, and people loved it. It was great. And then at the end, I said, this one piece of advice has been handed down for all these years, and then I took out the saying and read it like it was a family piece of advice, and it was awesome. And after that speech, a couple of people would come up and they were like, oh man, you're so good, you must be a natural speaker. It's funny, you work hard at something for years to develop a skill, and then people say you're natural, which is it's just funny, just ironic. I get told I'm a natural speaker all the time now. I remember my first table topics where I got up, I mumbled for like 30 seconds, having no idea what I was saying, nothing coherent, and then finished by saying, I don't know how to finish. And then everyone was like, oh, that's good, man, sit down, and I clapped. So, yeah. It's so funny that people tell me I'm a natural speaker. And then he invited me to come to his club and give a speech, and I had to take that morning off work because they have a morning club on a Tuesday. And I gave a speech about comic books. And then I gave another impromptu speech about something about virtuous people. And it was another really good one. And this guy that had been at both those speeches, at the Montague Club and at that one, for both the impromptu speeches, accused me of cheating. He accused me of preparing speeches to give for the impromptu speeches, which I don't do, which I thought was hilarious. Like, I mean, I wrote some articles to tell you, I've written a bunch of stuff. Like, accused me of cheating. So weird. Like, I'm so good that people are accusing me of cheating for impromptu speeches. That It's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, just one guy's done it so far, but... And, yeah, I've written a ton of stuff. I wrote a bunch of articles for Toastmasters on how to make the program better. I sent them to corporate and everything, and they said, screw you. So, you know, that's... The corporate part of Toastmasters sucks. Like, it's not good at all. But the volunteer part of Toastmasters works pretty darn well, which is amazing. It's just a weird, amazing organization, except for corporate. I think it could run fine if corporate just ceased to exist. All right, and then my Aunt Karen came over from Ionia on Saturday. We went for a hike down to the beach, which was really cool. I haven't been fairly intensely hiking across the dunes in a long time because, I mean, for the last couple of years I had trouble with hiking and stuff. So that was really cool. Kristen's come over in the last couple of days a couple of times with the kids. That was a lot of fun playing with them. And this last Thursday, I went to the Fab Lab. I was supposed to have a friend go, Doug, but he ended up having an infected tooth, so he had to go to a dentist instead. And it's this homeschool program that this woman started that I met at MuskeeCon, which is a Comic-Con, but at Muskegon. It's fairly small, but it was fun. And I went into the game room. She kind of recruited me into having a game. We had a Dungeons & Dragons game right there because I had never played before. It was a lot of fun. And one of the players was her son, Xavier. I don't know how old he is, 10, 12, something like that. And, you know, we liked each other. So then I ended up talking to his mom a bunch. And she invited me to come check out their homeschooling thing, too. Which I kind of invited myself to because I wanted to check it out for Evie, Kristen's daughter there, and Doug's kid, Oliver, who I think he's getting tested for Mensa here soon, which is the top 2% IQ society. The youngest person ever is like a girl at 2 years, 6 months. So I think he's planning on getting tested at 2 years, 5 months to see if he can be the youngest ever, because the kid's super smart. He knows all the planets and all sorts of stuff. And so I went to the homeschooling thing by myself because, hey, what the heck? And it is awesome. They have all sorts of stuff there. They have a bunch of 3D printers. They have a bunch of virtual reality machines. They have robots that they're making, robots that they're driving. They have wood laser cutters. They have metal laser cutters. They have all sorts of stuff. And I stayed up there for a few hours before I had to leave for my chiropractic appointment. And then after that day, I came back here and worked on this laptop, actually, that I'm working on right now for a couple hours to put a new fan in it, which I ordered, which took like 2 weeks to get here from China, because my fan went out in it, and it was a pain in the butt. It took a couple hours because it was nothing particularly went well, but this is one of the main things that didn't go well, is one of the screws deep down in there, if you get everything ripped apart, was the plastic had broken off. That's why the fan was wobbling and making so much noise. It was like it's because the fan was loose in there. There's no way to secure it down because the plastic was actually snapped, which I didn't see before. I couldn't figure out when I took it apart before. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So the plastic was snapped, but the screw was stripped too, so I couldn't get the screw out. So this new fan has a little spot where the screw is supposed to go through for this thing, but I can't get it out. So I just kind of bent that up a little bit and shoved it down in there. So now this keyboard has like a little bit of a wobble to it, like a little wave in that section, but it seems to be working fine. And then we got another laptop, my dad's old laptop, out of a storage unit, but the battery was completely fried on it. I ordered a new battery, got that on it, and then the operating system was Vista. And I wanted to have it as a backup for my teaching, just in case like this computer was down, like for the fan thing, for instance, because, you know, I can't miss teaching days. And so I got a CD from my friend, Doug, for Windows 7, which only goes until like 2020. It's supported, but that's fine. And went to install it on there, couldn't get it installed. Turns out the CD reader was bad on it, so I used an external CD reader and got it installed, so that one's up and running and it works okay. And there was an iPad in there too, which was Amy, my older sister, gave that to my dad so they could communicate on it. And he's working on learning the one device so far, and he's doing pretty good on his phone. He keeps learning more and more stuff. You know, he adds in like one new function he can do like every 2 weeks or a month, 1 month or something like that, and he keeps growing on it. But managing multiple devices across multiple different types of operatings and systems and whatnot, not so much. So I got that, and I got that working. That battery is strong in that thing, man, and it's just fine. And I don't like using it for a lot of stuff. I don't like using it for editing or writing, or teaching, which is basically what I do on the computer are those things. I mean, I do some other stuff too, but it works very good for reading, so I've been using it every day for that, because I read a lot of stuff online. I prefer to read actual books, that's why I own thousands of books, but it just works good for that. And Holly kind of recruited me to like help out with the Fab Lab now. She's such like a recruiter. She's like, come to this, come to that. And I think I'm helping out with like a Chinese student exchange later this month at the Fab Lab now. And I'm helping her out on Thursdays with the homeschooling group. That was just kind of crazy. So, yeah, interesting. Let's see. My writing group didn't meet last week. And I went up there, and then they didn't meet, so then I came back here and wrote this really unique story that some people like and some people don't like, and I tried to do an epic story in a really short space. It's really unique. I named that story A Short and Not Sweet Story, which I thought it was interesting. It's kind of hit or miss depending on what you like, it's like flavors of ice cream essentially. And oh yeah, the 23rd is the Chinese exchange that I'm probably helping with up there. And then the 26th, so not far away, I mean that's 11 days away, I'm doing an open mic night speech. I think I'm going to be doing those speeches instead of Toastmasters so much, and I think I'm going to give a speech, less than 10 minutes, probably like 7 minutes, somewhere in there, about alligator wrestling and the meaning of life is what I think I'm going to do. It'll be really cool. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one. The one I did in comic books actually went over pretty darn well up at the Arconic one. So that was interesting too. And do I have anything else on here? I can't get colostrum. The Amish guy that's going to be selling me colostrum, like his cows aren't having calves or something, don't seem to be able to get colostrum. We emptied out a storage unit, got a bunch of stuff out of there. I got like 500 books out of bins out of there. So now I have like a couple thousand books at this house, maybe a few thousand, which is cool. I mean, I like books, but I just have them piled up all over the place. You need enough money to have enough room to have a few thousand books, and I do not. And Mom and I had, I guess not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before, we had a fire, and we burned a piñata that she had for like 27 years from Mexico, which was pretty crazy. And that Thursday, too, on the 4th, so what is that, 11 days ago now, Dad donated an old lathe from the late 1800s to the Montague Museum, which is really cool. And they have a ton of stuff at the Montague Museum. And I went and helped him out with that. And that lathe, I don't know how heavy that sucker was. I'm guessing over 100 pounds. I mean, it was solid. It wasn't huge. It wasn't small, but it was just solid steel. And I carried that thing down a flight of stairs by myself. Didn't mess up my neck too much. You know what did mess up my neck? It was the virtual reality game, because you put on those goggles and then you have a little thing, and it's pretty straightforward to use. First time I ever used it, but I figured it out right away. But you're always looking around. You're looking around all over the place, right? So you're moving your neck like crazy around this whole 3D world, and yeah, that jacked up my neck. That was the same day I worked on the computer too, and so I was bent over the computer for a few hours like that, and my neck is still messed up. That's going to take a couple of weeks to put that back together correctly, so that's unfortunate. But, I mean, it's good to know my different limitations. There's certain things I want to try this summer. Some of them require money, but maybe in the fall I want to try flight, just a flight within the United States, cheap. They have, I mean, in the fall they'll probably have some cheap flights from like here to Florida for like $100 round trip or something, and where I don't do anything super special. And I've never been to Florida, so that would work out good. A lot of the southeast coast, I haven't been to a bunch of those states, so and I just, because when I did the alligator wrestling trip, it took me like 6 weeks to recover, my spine to recover from that, getting adjustments, and I don't know, I was messed up when I got there, so, I mean, it may be that just flying messes me up, because the cerebrospinal fluid doesn't flow correctly. Maybe just flying messes me up from the pressure, which would suck. I mean, they really can't fly anywhere. But if I do that and it works, that means, I could potentially fly and just not do some crazy adventures like alligator wrestling, and then I could still try to at some point in this life make a trip to Europe. I'd really like to hit some places, Iceland and Ireland and England, the whole United Kingdom and the Netherlands. I would like to travel everywhere, but at least some sort of limited version. Another one is a motorcycle. I don't know how much the posture of a motorcycle and the pump through the handles will mess up my spine. Possibly a lot, but maybe I'll be able to take it. So I need to like borrow someone's motorcycle for a couple-hour ride at some point this summer, which, you know, is a hard thing to do because people don't like letting other people borrow their motorcycles. But I will definitely find someone, some way to do that. I need to. And oh, and getting the stuff out of the storage unit, we found some old school stuff and whatnot, which was super interesting. We found a thing that I drew a dragon that I got a blue ribbon for, which is like the top rated ribbon at the Ionia Free Fair for when I was 12. I drew it at Jeff's Bait and Tackle in the shack when I was selling stuff based on one of the sharp, long, pointy metal things. I don't know if you're able to say that word too, or you get banned for that. That we sold in that store. So that was pretty cool to find, actually. That was pretty cool to find. And let's see, yeah, some various experiments I tried. Ben and Alyssa came over, and that was fun visiting with them. Read a bunch of stuff. It's such a hard time finding screwdrivers that worked for the computer, because I borrowed Doug's at first just to check it out, but then I gave those back to him, and I couldn't find the set I already have. I don't know where it is. And I went and bought another set, but it was for glasses, and they weren't fine enough, which was unfortunate. They were good enough for some of the screws, but not some of the other screws. Why aren't all the screws in the computer the same? I don't know. And then, so I went and bought another set. You know, these are all just like a couple of dollars. Went and bought another set, got it, and they wouldn't fit in there either, even though they were supposed to be, right? I got this like cheap set from Walmart or Myers, and they wouldn't fit in there. So what I did is I ground it down with a piece of sandpaper to make the end of the flathead sharper to get it to work, and that did work. So that was that was funny. Me, Mom, Kristen, and Evie and Judah all went to a little carnival thing they had for the Dumbo premiere at the movie theater, which was very cool. They had like face painting, and they had some little toss games and stuff like this, and that was a lot of fun. That was quite a bit of fun. And Dad and I worked on the storage unit several times. Let's see, anything else in here? Man, tons of stuff I got coming up. I got a cousin, Zach, who watches these. I don't know if he's watched this far into this one, but he's moving to Norway soon, which is cool. And I need to meet up with him because he's quitting work soon, which means, you know, his moving's probably coming right up here. Oh, my friend Andy from the Grand Haven Toastmasters Club had a birthday. I think his 40th birthday party. And, you know, he's been disabled a super long time. He has a breathing tube, and he's in one of the controlled electric wheelchairs and stuff. Went and saw him, and that was really cool. Went to a blues and barbecue festival, which was excellent as far as the blues was concerned, the music, like in Muskegon at the farmers market. Some hard rocking stuff. Liked it. I mean, blues is where rock emerged from, and they were definitely on the rock side of blues. But the barbecue wasn't good. Tested like 3 or 4 different places barbecues and barbecued ribs and whatnot, and didn't like them as much as mine. Oh, which gets me into how I got into the raw stuff. So Mom and I got a deal. It was half off, half off. It was an accidental markdown at Meijer on ribs, back ribs. So they were $1.25 a pound. So we filled up the freezer, and then I was eating back ribs like all the time. And I was boiling and making the broth and drinking some of the broth, and I started feeling worse and worse. And I couldn't figure out why. And then one day I just ate a pork steak just because I like pork steaks, and I felt better. And I was like, oh, what's, you know, like, there's something there. And it's because boiling it, that it was too much heat for too long, you're destroying some sort of nutrients. You know, I'm not huge into chemistry. I know a little bit for how it affects me about different vitamin C effects and stuff like that. But it must be, you know, it's affecting something, and it's destroying something that you need. So you need some of the meat to not be so thoroughly cooked. And then I was like, well, let's just take that to a more logical conclusion, like an extreme logical conclusion, and say, I know a lot of people have success with eating more raw meat. And, you know, maybe try it. I mean, there was a guy that ate only meat, and he lived in a hospital, him and another guy, so two guys, back in like the 1930s to be monitored, because no one believed they could live on just meat, and they were anthropologists. They just spent like a couple of years with the Eskimos, and they're like, yeah, you can live just on meat. No one would believe him, just like now. Well, science. The medical industry has no idea what science is. And so they stayed in a hospital for a year just eating meat. And what they found is they got healthier. Right? They got healthier and healthier. And then you don't get worse and worse. You get better and better the longer you just eat meat. I'm not very good at staying strict on it, otherwise I'd probably be even healthier. But they ate mostly raw meat. Like, oh man, and I've heard about this with other people. I've tried raw meat a few times over the last couple of years. Don't like it. I have had beef tartare at like a 5-star restaurant, and it was pretty decent, but it wasn't like, ooh, beef tartare. So I wanted to try it again, and that convinced me. I was like, man, it's the not being thoroughly cooked. So I wonder how much of a difference it would make to just really eat a decent amount of the raw meat. And so I tried it, and I tried a couple of different formulations of stuff I was doing and came up with that version that I like. And I notice on the days I eat raw meat, I feel better the next day. I do. It's very noticeable. It's hormonally noticeable. It's noticeable in my physiology. So yeah, so I'm going to keep moving more and more in that direction probably. And obviously we know, because I did the experiments before, the colostrum, that can make a huge difference. So between those two things, I might be able to make a huge difference. And my neck has been getting better now the last couple of weeks between, hauling stuff out of the storage unit and the crazy VR stuff. I've kind of messed up my neck somewhat. But before that, my neck was getting strong enough that I can do neck bridges, front bridges and back bridges, where you bend over backwards or you bend over forwards and put your head on the ground and rest all your weight on it to strengthen my neck. And my neck was getting easier and easier to adjust, meaning it was maintaining itself more and more stable, which is super good. I seem to be maintaining my strength overall with using the hammers, but I'm probably using them a little too little. I might be working out once every 6 weeks or something now. I probably need to work out at least once a month, maybe once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks, right in there at kind of a minimum. And I'm up to 8-pound hammers now, though. I mean, today, so I do these ones where you come all the way down, you swing the hammers all the way back, you swing them all the way up, you swing them over behind you like this, and then you come back down, right? All the way down, all the way up and over, all the way back down, and then I do just this piece of it, and then I just do just the bottom piece, and then I do flies like this, and then I bend over and I do like a reverse fly where you're shrugging them up, and then I do just the tricep extension, and then I do just the bicep curl portion of it, and then I do leg raises. And I did 50 of the full movement, and then I did 50 of each of the 1/2 of the movement, and I did 25 of the fly and 25 of the back raise, and then 25 of the tricep extensions, 25 of the bicep curls, and 100 of the calf raises with the 8-pound sledgehammers in each hand. So decent strength for sure. Yeah, and then I did some hollows, and then I did the neck bridges, and I did some hollows to strengthen the neck a little bit the other way. So playing with it, but I mean decent levels of strength. So I'm pretty happy with all of that stuff. I still have to figure out exactly what I want to do, like with my life, what exactly values I'm trying to achieve. But one of the things I definitely want to do is write a book. It'll probably be more of a series of articles, but it's probably going to be called like Grief, Suicide, and the Meaning of Life, because I think I have really good information on those things that I've never seen anywhere else. And then I'm probably going to write a commentary on this book by philosophy professor Susan Wolf on meaning in life and why it matters. And I think it's a really bad book on meaning in life. So it seems to point out some good stuff, but it leads to quite bad stuff. And at one point she says, there's a bunch of people that if you don't have enough money or you're not in the right political circumstances and a bunch of other things, it's not even possible to have meaning in your life. So it seems kind of dangerous to me because, right, it's kind of like logically convincing people that they should not be alive because they can have no meaning in their life. So I kind of want to rip that book apart, probably call it something like dissecting Susan Wolf's Meaning in Life, something like that. But it costs like a couple $1,000s to get the release so that you can quote the book. Especially because I want to quote the whole book so I can do like a commentary on it. But if you write as a thesis or a dissertation, then it's free. So I need to get that underway. There's several other things that I want to do. There's this thing called The Moth, where it's a speaking contest, only a few minutes, perfect for what I do, and it's about stories, themed stories, but I have to drive all the way in Ann Arbor, which is several hours away. There's a horse riding course that's coming for naturally handling horses instead of with so much equipment and stuff, which sounds awesome. I'm thinking I'll probably never really be able to ride horses again, but it's like $20 for like 2 full days of auditing. It's like a few $100 if you want to bring your horse and everything, but I don't even have a horse, so I might go to that. And I might go to a Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp. I grew up in Blue Lake, and they have a traditional theater, like Shakespearean theater, like from Shakespeare's time, built out there, where they put on Shakespeare plays. And I've never been to one, and the ticket's $20. I really want to go to that and see it this summer too. I think that would be really cool. I gave 2 speeches at Christian Haven Home in Grand Haven that went off really well. One was about analyzing lyrics, another one was about how resentment is the most destructive emotion. So that was really interesting. And man, there's a bunch of other stuff. That's my schedule. All right, that thing is necessary. So now let's look through just the specific notes that I randomly wrote down, and it got kind of crazy because I ran out of room, and I was like, I'm going to do it soon, and I just kept writing stuff down. I covered most of that. Oh, there's a thing on VK, so that's like the Facebook, but for Russia, and I'm active on there, and I keep getting more and more friends and stuff like that, and people who like my writing and get comments, and I was promoted in one group because I'm editing the one horror anthology. I was promoted in one group as like, look at like a real American that's on VK, and he probably speaks Russian because he's on here and stuff, and I don't, and it was a pretty funny little incident. I did have ice cream like a handful of days ago, and the next day I felt more depressed, and my joints hurt, and my skin itched and stuff, and it's just so unfortunate, but it's definitely true. I had a student that his favorite dog is a Chihuahua. Because, get this, like, why? Because Chihuahuas suck, right? Why? Because they look like aliens, which, look at them. They really do. It's hilarious. I just wrote an article on aliens today about why the Fermi paradox is BS too, which is pretty funny, which says that we should find aliens, right? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I finished 2 writing courses, one from Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code and stuff, super mega bestseller, and one from Neil Gaiman, who wrote a bunch of super famous stuff too, more in the fantasy realm. And I'm reading some stuff from Neil Gaiman over there, which is super good. And got the whole collected works of Harry Stack Sullivan, a psychologist who should be more famous than he is because he's really foundational to a lot of psychologies that emerged afterwards that didn't reference him for like $10. That was great. And there's beef tartare, Annie B. Good almonds, frozen barbecue. Oh yeah, I saw some people so the illustrator, which I have to message him, because before I write the next article, I kind of want to use one of his pieces of art in the article that I'm writing about how I'm writing the comic books, and I have the first page of the comic books done, but I'm going to have probably about 200 pages through this whole comic book series, so I got to get going on that a little bit more. So I'm writing more and more, and I feel like writing, but I have to focus a little bit too because there's so much stuff that I want to write about. But I saw several people that I know there, which is pretty funny. And there was this one drunk guy at a bar that I was passing by from moving the car because I didn't realize I was going to be there so long, so I had to go move it. And it was crazy getting in a discussion with him, Dan. And then Leah, who I knew from Toastmasters, but I haven't seen her in a long time, like a year or something like that. And there was this one crazy girl there that this 12-year-old girl that was in the Dungeons and Dragons game, was funny. That's where I met Holly, and Yuke was there, and yeah, a lot of fun stuff there. Oh yeah, I've eaten grapes a few times in the last couple of months, and they don't mess me up as bad as a lot of stuff if I really limit it, but all fiber does mess me up, so I really have to watch that. I did get some grape juice that I was trying to like water down so I could just have a little flavor in water. That didn't work that great. I did get like an orange and like just squeeze some of the orange juice just by hand out of it for flavor, same as lemon and lime, and that seemed to work pretty good. Watering down the grape juice didn't work at all, but drinking the grape juice doesn't make me feel great, but it's definitely not as bad as eating grapes because the fiber still gives me some issues, but overall all that stuff is still getting better. I messaged Usborne Books, which Kristen is working for now as a distributor, about doing like a story series with them, and they didn't respond at all. When I gave that speech, the Leprechaun speech, there's a friend in that group, John, and sometimes he goes to the writing group I'm in too, recruited him into that based off the articles that I write on the writing group. I went to a writing group today, and then I give the date and kind of say what I did in the writing group. He's so funny. When he sees me give like some of my really good speeches, he's like, "Why aren't you rich, man?" It's pretty hilarious. He gave me this computer, actually, which is pretty cool. I did message Bill, which is the guy that runs the radio station, 88.9, that I write articles for, although he's sending me less and less articles to write about bands. I don't know if he's having a hard time coming up with information or not. But I mean, he likes the articles I've been writing. I do public speaking. So I messaged a couple of the bands because I sent them the articles. Some of the bands just loved the articles that I wrote. Amongst the Giants and Collision of Innocence really loved the articles that I wrote on their lyrics, analyzing their lyrics. And so I messaged him about, what do you think about me like speaking like this when you're doing a concert? And both of them were like, well, we can't do that currently because we don't have you put into the schedule for that. So we don't have the time. But they both said that, it's a possibility maybe in like a future tour or something like that. They thought it might work decently well. And so, they're like possibilities, but they kind of fell through. And then, but we have Unity Festival right here, and Bill's a little connected to that. I asked him to check in to see if I could speak there, but I haven't heard back on that, so I'm guessing that's a no. And yeah, and then just the writing stuff. I mean, I've been writing a bunch of stuff about psychology, wrote stuff about, let me try to look, and hopefully this doesn't mess up my video, but I'm writing a thing on the charismatic Elizabeth Holmes today, which is about her charismatic personality, even though she's a fraudster. The 2 things necessary for a better political system, why the Fermi paradox is BS, it's about aliens, and global cooling deniers. I just wrote those today, trying to understand the romance genre. That was yesterday. The day before, story, drama, conflict, and suspense. And that one, and what is a story? I think I came up with unique new definitions that are better than I've ever seen about what is a story and what is drama. And didn't come up with anything too new about suspense or conflict, just kind of reformulations of stuff that was already articulated by other people. But yeah, I think I really, from a phenomenological stance, which is kind of this philosophy of exploring the subjective phenomena as it occurs in our field of experience. When I was going through the What is a Story article, I think I really got deep and found some unique stuff about what stories really are there. And I wrote some stuff about the education industry, how MAKOs could have been better, and oh yeah, check out this title. I couldn't really decide on a title. It cuts this title off, actually. It's so long. I'll get to that in a second because I load it so I can actually see it on this other website. Psychological landscape, timescape, and symbolscape. I think that has a lot of potential to actually change my psychology and other people's psychology, of course, but mine too. And man, a bunch of stuff. Counterproductive work, torture, and meaning. That is a crazy title. So I think this writing is pretty decent. My style is really starting to emerge. It's been changing over time. I used to interrupt myself in the middle of my sentences a lot in my writing, and now I don't so much because I figured out that was a problem. So I've been focusing on it. Oh yeah, look at this title: God, the Other, and the Self. or the emergent concept of God, or the recreation of the self through the discovery and conceptualization of God, or the God without and the God within. And I've been thinking about writing another article about that. I mean, people thought I was joking when I said I would have to found my own religion if I wanted to be religious, but I was not. And so now there's theoconceptualism, which is a word I made up. If you Google theoconceptualism, you'll come up with my thing. You know, on my resume it says under religion it says I'm a theoconceptualist, and which is kind of an unusual thing to have on your resume in general, but I like it that way. And I have some solid foundations in theology on there too, and I've been thinking about coming up with one. I just wrote down a note earlier on salience, which are like psychological affordances, which is possibilities for action in the environment, as divine revelation. It would obviously be always personal revelation, which would mean there would be a universal priesthood, and it's a connection of the God without and the God within, which is the concepts that I developed in that article, as 3 psychological concepts or philosophical concepts about the generalized other from George Herbert Mead, and then the significant other, which is from Harry Stack Sullivan, and the more knowing other, which is from Lev Vygotsky. He's a Russian psychologist, developmental psychologist, came up with the zone of proximal development, which is a super important concept in learning. And Jerome Bruner came up with scaffolding, which is a very similar thing that's implemented in the United States. And MAKOS is the program he made, which was the leader, which is dumb because it's a genius education program, mostly for religious fundamentalist reasons, which is interesting. But you take all those other concepts, generalized other, the more knowing other, and the significant other, and you realize if you put them together, you essentially have a theological entity. And then if you personalize it, then you have a personal one. So super interesting stuff like that, which I believe are bringing some unique perspectives. So it's a lot of cool stuff. The writing is fun. I like it. Some other people like it. Because my blog isn't actually focused on anything, I think I have an issue, though. You know, like the views aren't crazy good. Some things get more views, some things get less. But the issue is if someone reads one of my things on literature and they like it, well, then the next things are politics and economics and philosophy and psychology and giving speeches and Harry Potter and whatever else. And then, they're like, man, where's all the literature stuff? But it's the same thing with all the other people. If they like one of my political things, they're like, what is all this literature stuff? And if they like one of my psychology things, they're like, what is this stuff about business? If they like, right? It's like, so it's not a good way to advertise something. It's like if you had a restaurant, it's like, what do you make here? And then you were like, well, we make 100 different things. And they'd be like, okay, well, that doesn't sound very good because I have no idea why I would go there because I don't know what you do, right? You open a burger joint or steak joint or something like that. It's part of why McDonald's business keeps going down and down and down, because they've tried to change up what McDonald's is about and what they serve so much that no one knows what McDonald's is about or what they serve anymore, so less and less people go there. Always bad. There's a great book on that written in like the 1980s called Positioning, and by Jack Trout and something Reese. I haven't looked at it in quite a while, but it's great. I mean, they call that's line extension, and if you overextend the line, you hurt the business so much, and so many businesses do that over and over and over, which leaves a lot of room for smaller ones. So it's not a bad thing for the overall economy, but it's a bad thing if it's your business. Do I have anything else? I think I'm good. I mean, that was a lot. That is a lot. I'm sure, well, there is more. There is, a ton of other stuff that happened in there, but we're not going to cover everything. So, I will see you next time, and, I don't mind these long ones, but because I have so much to cover, I talk fast, because I only have an hour anyway, so it'll cut me off. I'm at 53 minutes now. And I don't want to go longer than an hour anyway. I'm right in the middle of writing an article, but I'm like, oh man, I got to get this video shot. I have to get it done. So I'm doing this, and then I'm going to write the article and finish that and publish that, and then I have to read probably like 2 pages and then go to bed. But I really need to chop these down a little bit, because I like doing them, but I don't want to talk this fast in them because I know a lot of people don't like that. I don't mind it. I watch my YouTube videos on 1.5 or 2 times speed all the time because your mind will just adapt to hearing the words faster, and it's not actually a problem. You can turn it down if I talk too fast, But I think a lot of times when people are just conveying straight information, they talk way too slow. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Ben Shapiro talks super fast. I just don't mind. I can keep up with it just fine. I'm sure, other people sometimes can't. When I've been in a cognitively impaired state, which I have for long periods of time, then that would have been super confusing to me. So I get the other side of it. So I guess if I chop it down a little bit, then I can tell a little more detailed stories and maybe be a little more coherent, at least with the time frame, and then talk slower. So, we'll play with it. Just kind of an exploration. Anyways, see you next time, or future Jeff. It was originally made for me in the future, but I think my memory's strong now. My mind's strong, my memory's strong, so I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll see if I actually need it. Anyways, till next time. Bye.